Introduction to Cloud Computing, Google Wave. We've seen in this series the power of the cloud, and we've even seen how it can take collaboration away from simple emails going back and forth and massive document versioning. Google has started what I feel is the beginning of a new form of collaboration. It's called Google Wave. And as we begin this CBT nugget, I want to warn you in advance that at the recording of this nugget, Google Wave is in what some would call beta, but Google calls preview. So the look and feel might have changed since today's recording. However, the underlying functionality should remain. I'll also warn you that a portion of this recording is done without a net, as the real-time nature of Google Wave can only be shown without do-overs and resets. So, get ready, it's gonna be a blast. When you're talking about Google Wave, you're talking about Collaboration 2.0. In other words, taking it to the next level. And I'll discuss that a little bit during this CBT nugget. Now, we're going to basically get you started with some of the terms, the terminology that Google utilizes with Wave. Believe it or not, they actually took Wave from a sci-fi cult classic that I think it's Josh Whedon put out called Firefly, or the movie Serenity that you saw, where people wave, and that's their video call. So that's where they got it from. Kind of interesting. And so there's some, they talk about blips and wavelets and things like that. We'll talk about that. And then we're basically going to give you a demonstration of the basic features. We'll actually start up a wave, actually talk to some people, show you how to drag and drop a few things, the search capabilities. Nothing too advanced because it would take us, about 2 or 3 nugget videos to really start diving down in. But this is a good start to get you ready for the cloud computing tool of the future. When you try to compare a wave to an email, let's say, or an instant message conversation, you're going to find out that that neither one of them can get anywhere close to what a wave is. But probably the first thing is what is a wave? Well, a wave, which is going to be the thing that we utilize, is going to be a message or a threaded conversation that allows for multiple. So a wave, basically, is the basic conversation sometimes people would say, well, is it kind of like making a little chat room? And you could maybe look at it that way. The next is something called a wavelet. Now, a wavelet is going to be multiple messages or threads within a wave. Now, within that, so you can say this can be multiple threads. Now I'm trying to use modern day email and chat conversation type of a vocabulary to kind of help you understand what they're talking about when we get into the actual environment. Then the next thing that you're going to see is something that within each wavelet there are going to be what are known as blips. Now blips, think of as the individual statements, actions, and events. So I'm going to kind of draw this out for you. Basically, if we think of the wave as the conversation we start, and so you have this wave right here, okay? Now inside this wave, this conversation that we're going to have, the basic conversation, you're going to have a wavelet. So let's say we're going to put together, there's me here, there's James, as we'll see, and then there's Tim. And let's say I say something. Well, here's my comment. Here's James' comment. And here's Tim's comment. And then, and each one of these things is a blip. Then, all of a sudden, meanwhile, so here's your wavelet right here, okay, that conversation is kind of going on in the room. Meanwhile, as part of this wave, I also invited Dan and Jeremy. While we're having a conversation over here, all of a sudden Dan makes a comment about Jeremy's latest Cisco voice, his CCVP product, which is really good, and so he makes a little blip here, and Jeremy then replies to that. And because Dan has specifically clicked on Jeremy and only is responding to him, he and Jeremy are in their own little kind of conversation right here. So this would be a second wavelet. Now here's the cool thing about this. At any point in time, we can, of course, Dan can then add, let's say he wanted to add James, and so he can then pull James into this wavelet, and then James could be able to then start having a discussion and comment on these things. And as long as you stay within the same wavelet, everybody has the ability to chat, to collaborate, to utilize on part of this. Well, this can be considered all one big conversation, or what is known as a wave. So that's just a kind of an overview for you to kind of understand when you're walking into the Google Wave environment exactly what they mean by a wave. There's the overall wave, which will be in the pane, actually, as you're going to see in the interface, and then within that you're going to have the wavelets, the conversations going on. Most waves are going to have one wavelet with blips coming from everyone invited, but once you start splitting out things, hey, Dan says, you know what Jeremy just said, or what James just said up here, I want to really comment on, but I want to talk with Jeremy about it. So he grabs Jeremy and just starts his own little wavelet. Meanwhile, they carry on their conversation. At any point in time, they can, of course, share that to everybody else and bring everyone else into that conversation if Dan or Jeremy choose to. So that gives you a little bit of freedom within that conversation, almost like when you're in a room and you're having people talking, and if you need to kind of whisper to somebody so that way nobody else is kind of really understanding what's going on, but the conversation continues around you and you don't have to stop and wait for Dan and Jeremy to finish their conversation and then you can jump in. No, it can happen in real time, as we're going to see. Most of you have probably already taken a look at my CBT Nugget I recorded on web collaboration. Remember, that's where we talked about things like iLink and WebEx, and we demonstrated just how easy it was to do collaboration with people over the web in groups and in real time. And so when we say that Google Wave is a web-based collaboration tool, you might ask, well, Chris, why didn't you just put it into that CBT Nugget? Well, believe it or not, Google Wave is different. Even though it is tapped as a web-based collaboration tool, if you go to Google's actual website and read how they describe it, one of the founders of Google and the ones that work on it actually quote it as this, and I'm reading straight from their website. What email would look like if it were invented today? Basically, this is a group collaboration tool that is to take the best elements of the web and bring it together into one unit or one web interface. Some people call it maybe a hybrid interface. You'll notice that you'll have a navigation area. You have your contacts, like your address book. Now this is, looking pretty similar to going, hey, this looks a little bit Outlookish. Well, yeah, or any of your mail programs. But then you'll notice that it's going to bring in the combinations of the searchability that Gmail has, along with the capabilities of document share, like Google Docs and Google Apps allow you to do it. And then, hey, why not put in some all their gadgets and stuff that can be put into place here. So overall, this is going to be slightly different than what you've seen in the past, but yet at the same time, it's going to be vaguely familiar. What am I talking about? Well, get ready. We're going to start off by taking you on a tour of Google Wave, and then we're going to demonstrate how this actually works by getting a couple of my good friends, James Conrad and, of course, Tim Needham, who works at the University of Phoenix, to come on and do a little Google Wave with me. Now, one thing about Google Wave being a preview means that not everybody has it. In fact, maybe if you're looking at this CBT Nugget, you'll say, Chris, I don't have it. Well, to get it, there are several different ways you can get it, but two primary ways to get Google Wave. One is to know somebody that already has it that will issue you an invitation. You can invite people, and then they will eventually get invited in. Or you can go to Google's Wave sign-up page. Now, if you just go to Google and type in Google Wave sign-up, it will steer you to the correct page to sign up for that. And then, of course, one or two things will happen. Either you'll get an invitation from a friend of yours, or Google will send you an invitation. Now, it looks like this. I already kind of previewed this in a second, and showing you my invitation that I received from my good buddy John Lawrence, who invited me way back in November to join up, as you can see up here, November 2009, to join up with Google Wave. And, I'd heard about it. I wanted to get invited. So he sent me a link. And it'll basically show up like this. And it will allow you to then go in and accept the wave. And then once you sign in, you can go in and check things out. And again, you can always just go to wave.google.com, and that will also help you get started as well. So one of those two ways. And then once you've done that, you will then sign up. You'll log in. You'll get what you'll think is another email name. It'll be like, in my case, my name at googlewave.com. It is not an email. That is just merely your login or your Wave name. And so it's not like people can send you emails to that. It's just going to be used for people to wave at you, and that's what a conversation is called, a wave. So anyway, that's just kind of a way for you to get started and get on board Google Wave. So let's get to know our environment here. The Wave client, basically, like I said earlier, looks a little bit almost like an Outlook-y mail client type of environment, but it is different. Now, what you're going to see is that there are three columns. You have this column, your second column, and then the third column over here. Now, the first one is going to be where your navigation panel is. This looks, vaguely familiar if you use Gmail. Well, you have your inbox, any of the waves that you're a participant, any of the new ones that were sent, any created by you or been contributed by you, and then any requests from waves that will not be included in your contact list. So if someone finds your, like in my case, Chris at googlewave.com environment, they could send a request to be a part of a wave. Maybe they saw my name attached to somebody else's wave that they have access to, and they wanted to, get in contact with you. Again, this is a real global design, so you never know how that's going to work. Then below that is, of course, your contacts. Your contacts panel is just like your chat buddy list that you see in your Gmail account. Now, in the second panel, you're going to see what is known as the search, or inbox, as some people like to call it. Now, there is a difference. You have your inbox, which of course is going to be the waves that match a search that just say inbox. The reason why we call this the search is because you can find the different waves that match any search that you put into it. So all your latest waves that are the most recently updated are going to be in your inbox. So anything, any in the inbox, basically, is what you're going to do. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can search and utilize. They have some pretty advanced search functions, of course, it being Google and all, in order for you to find those waves. And then finally, you have the third column, which is where you start a new wave, or you open an existing wave, or do anything that is going to be actual part of the conversation or wave that is taking place. Now, there are several different ways that you can start a new wave. Obviously, over here in the wave panel, you can start a blank wave, certain types. They give you 6 different types of waves you can do: discussions, documents, where you start typing and people editing and adding onto it, which is kind of cool. Brainstorming, putting up little blips and things. You can go over here and click New Wave, or you can go over here and you can click and add, click on somebody's name, like Tim, my good buddy Tim Needham over at Apollo Group, and I can click on New Wave. Now, when I do this, it will then create a new wave. It will then green out here. Tim's there. And if I want, I can add more people over here just by simply clicking on Click Add, and I'll go ahead and add my good buddy James Conrad to it. I can even search for participants in this environment. And so now I'll go down here and start the wave by saying, "How are things?" Now, I'm sending this out by hitting done, and or done is basically Shift Enter. The nice thing is when you're doing documents, you can do some, obviously enter and everything else. But take a look. Right now, in real time, I am watching James type. Tim says, hey, he's in class working. James is saying pretty good. Now notice how this separates into the different wavelets that are going on, and the blips that are going to be coming. Excuse me, the blips, the different coming. He's working on two nectology. Now, of course, I can then click in, double click into Tim's and reply specifically to him without replying to James. Check this out. Very cool, Tim. And then meanwhile, I'll come down here in the original and say, sounds good, James. What pics are you working on? So look at how in real time I am typing and sending this, and then we get in real-time response. This is way different than even what you've seen on when you're doing your mail. And I can come down here and just scroll. And so I'm going to say, sure thing. And then, watch this. Now, of course, I went ahead and Tim is still talking, on our conversation. James is still conversation, and then bam, he sends this beautiful star trails over the white rocks picture that he took when I think he's up in Glacier Park or thing. Okay, and in fact, he even tells me. And this is actually up in Four Corners in New Mexico. So I can then reply back and say, that is a tremendous picture, James. Let me show you one of mine from the Ukraine. Now, what I've done is over here up above where you can't really see it, I've got a photo here. I'll drag it so you can see it right there on my desktop. And so what I can do is then simply come back down here, and you can then drag and drop and place this into the thing. Now, of course, Gears saying, hey, Google Wave is going to be using Gears. You do need to install Gears there. I wanted to show you this so you didn't get caught unawares. Gears is actually a separate component. It's one of those gadgets and one of those little APIs that run in the background that allow you to drag and drop things right into your Wave. So I go ahead and click Allow. Boom. I send it in. It shows up. And now everyone can see it. They can see the picture. So if I want to, I can even add a comment. This is sunset over the Dnieper River. And so as you can see, as we continue to type back and forth, we have all of this capability to continue a conversation. So if I want to, I can break these out into different small wavelets like I did with, where I'm looking up here and I scroll back up to look at Tim. And if I wanted to reply directly to Tim, I can click into his particular blip and then reply to him, or come back here to where James is talking. So if I click on this one more time and I'll say, thanks for helping demo the Wave, Mr. James. And send that, and so off we go. Now, the nice thing about this is that at any point in time during this conversation, I can simply come up here, click, and add any people that I want to. James, of course, is supplying the appropriate speak here. It looks like lots of flexibility in all things you show. Okay, that's good. So, it's nice to, get people on. And James is correct. He should explore this more. Actually, I'm the one that's kind of been getting myself, and I think Dan Charbonneau, our CEO, and also Jeff Short and some of the other guys there at CBT Nuggets have really gotten into this, and they really want to go in and have some fun. So right now, as we look into this, we can see that even now, someone is adding there a new thing. Tim is actually putting in to show us exactly where he is located on the actual environment. So you can click in there and look at the maps and do all kinds of fun things with that. So all of this is to show to you the different types of interactivity that you can do within the Wave. Drag and drop capabilities. You can add different multimedia rich environments. You can add a video feed if you want in there. You can go ahead and add a calendar event, a meeting time. You can suggest things. Simply by clicking up here on the down arrow, I can get more actions. And so we can see, we can playback, unfollow, archive. We can even link to certain waves. Tim is actually, giving me some feedback on the application that's going on and the things that are working. And so while he is typing, I can even make a comment on the fact that, it still doesn't improve our typing, does it? So we can constantly engage and interact within the this type of environment. But again, the anything that you can think of that you want to add to this environment, whether they're gadgets, whether they're the bots and things that we're going to have, all these different things are available to us. Now down here we can also add tags to this particular wave to enable us to track and do search on here. So if I wanted to tag here, I could put on James Pictures and add that as a tag. I can also add Tim Needham and Apollo Group and add that. And so, close this, and you can see now there's tags that have been added to this. And when I need to come back and do a search, as we're going to show you in a little bit, I can simply do a search on James Pictures, and it will then search for any other waves that I have that actually have that same exact tag. So it's a great way to kind of be concise but yet orderly within this environment. A lot of people think, wow, this thing could get a little crazy. But again, you have that same functionality, that same ability to go into the background and add those tags and do the things. You can also see the images that are on the wave. If I click down here, I can view this as a slideshow. I can then copy these images to a new wave. So if I copy the images to a new wave, I've just now created two photos that I placed, and now let's say I want to add somebody like my friend Clark here, or Scott Tiernan. So I can go ahead and add Clark. I can add Tom Warwick, my good buddy at Skillsoft, and then Scott Tiernan, and then put that in. And as soon as I add them, they now know, and of course you can see the little green button here. That means that whether they're online. Right now they're not online, but as soon as my friend Clark, Tom, and Scott get on, they will then see that there's a new wave from me that includes these photos, and then they can add comments. And so if I want to, I can hit done, and then put in a reply and say, hey guys, give some feedback on these photos. And then now, as soon as they open up their Google Wave, that's going to be ready for them to comment on. Now think about all the things that you can bring into this environment. You can bring things like I said, video, pictures, documents, multimedia rich environment, and you can add these. Tim had attempted to add that map there to show exactly where he was. All these things are going to enable us to do some really incredible things in the world of collaboration. Now I sort of cheated here just a little bit by showing you all the cool little drag and drop features here when you're doing media rich waves, but also you'll notice in the background that whenever there's an update to your environment, it will switch up and move your wave to the top. So in this case, my hello, how are things going, and if I look down here, we'll notice that Tim has added some more information. And so I can then come back here and click and reply and say, yep, there are many gadgets, extensions, and that's what they're called, these little capability to do extra in the wave. So once we do that, you can say, wow, okay, we can see how the interactivity. Now where do we get to these gadgets and extensions? How can we utilize these? Well, the drag and drop capability, like I said, was by installing one extension called Gears. Gears is something that's used in Google Chrome that allows you to do drag and drop and database updating functionality. There's a lot more to it, but it allows you in Wave to do that, where I literally drag the picture and then drop it back into here. Now to get to your gadgets or extensions, you need to click here on the blip, edit blip. When you click on edit the blip, you're going to get a whole bunch of tools. Mostly, remember, this is a document centric type of environment. They're going to want you to develop documents and do some other things that are going on. And so what you can do is, of course, you can bold and italic and underline and strike through and some pretty crazy. You can even choose from several different fonts. If I want to, I can use something like and you don't have a lot, but I can move to Comic Sans now and then start typing using different fonts, and send that up. And so you can use those capabilities. But to come down here and let's say I want to add something, and the edit bar comes over here, you can set paragraph headings, you can set the highlight colors, you can change the text color, but then click on the More Actions button right here. When you do that, look at not only do you have bulleting and you have your alignment, and you can indent and decrease, you can set up links to other waves, to other hyperlinks, but you can also do Google search results. You can add a gadget by a URL. We'll talk about that here in a second. You can also use a yes, no, maybe gadget, which is kind of a way to get an instant poll of audience. You've got the Maps gadget, like we saw earlier on that Tim was inserting. We can also use video chat experience if people have webcams. And by the way, these extensions are pretty much included once you get your Google Wave up and down. But you can start adding ones, like you can add your AccuWeather.com. They got Sudoku. You've got other different times of things, including some really interesting ones like a Ribbit conference call. You can also utilize the new extension installer. If you have an extension that you found on the web and you can do a search, you can use this new extension installer, and by merely clicking it in, you just put in the URL that will link to that thing, hit install, and it will automatically populate into your Google Wave. So that's kind of cool, pretty cool that they have the thing. You have iframe gadgets, you've got a Polo gadget, which is basically if you click on the Polo gadget, it'll then come in and bring in the ability for you to add a poll to your environment. So some kind of cool, fun things. And your mileage may vary. What I always recommend that you do is take a look at the extensions that are available out there. Just go into Google and type in Google Wave extensions and search, and I'm sure that there are going to be, by the time this nugget's recorded and in there, there's going to be tons of more options like that. Okay, one last thing that we do want to show you is the search functionality. Otherwise, we could spend days going over all the cool features. And again, a lot of those are beyond the scope of what this CBT Nugget can do. And I encourage you, as always, go out, download it once you get an invitation, and use it. The thing that we were going to talk about, though, was the search capabilities. So right here, you'll notice that in the search capabilities, you can put in on anything on the inbox. So I can also use advanced search functions, things like with James. And if I put that, it's going to find anything that had actual James. Now, of course, that's primarily dealing with content. And by the way, I just remembered this is a tag. So basically, what we need to do is put in a tag, and then we would put in quotes James Pictures, and hit enter. And now it's going to search through and check it out. Anything that's tagged with James Pictures, I can then click on it, and it, of course, will bring it back over here to where we are at. So I can find certain things. Now, when you click on the the search button that has right here, you can always go back to inbox. And when you click on inbox, it'll bring you back to inbox. You can click on all waves, which of course are going to be anything and everything you have. You can also do anything that's been by me, in other words, that includes me or created by me or have been updated by me. And then as you scroll down, you can see that there's even a way for you to add queries or searches and keep these and just merely select them from your drop-down. So it's kind of cool, the abilities that you have here, where if you have a pre-built search, if I'm always trying to find James Conrad in the sea of things, I can put in my by James in there, and then boom, I can just find all of the latest and greatest things. You can actually archive them. You can mark them as read when you run that search, so you can do all kinds of different nifty things for that. Folders, it's very similar to what you saw in the Gmail and the Google Docs, and the things you can set up folders to place things. So I can put in a James Conrad folder, and then simply you can drag and drop your things into the James Conrad. You can add the folder, rename it. You can set a color, or you can whatever you want to do and even bring it and drag it over here onto the James Conrad now for here. So you have these capabilities to place the waves and the different things that you have into containers, which really helps to organize things overall. Now, we've got so many different things that we can show you, but probably the last and greatest thing that we need to do is show you one other feature that I just think is fantastic, and that is called playback. Think about this. At some point, you're going to probably be away from your computer. Maybe it's nighttime and you want to get some sleep, and everybody else is up talking about the latest and greatest, Star Wars, Clone Wars episode or something like that. Well, then, you go to bed and you come back and you're thinking, well, hey, I'm sure they continued that conversation, that wave, and I want to, kind of track down what's going on. Well, let me show you a little cool feature called playback. Now, first, I'm going to have to go to my inbox and find all my things here, and then you just keep scrolling down, and we find this one, which is Devin Adams, who basically great guy, who participated in a PodCamp Arizona in 2009. Now, this was back in November that this started, and there was 76 people that were participating, and I got invited by my good friend Scott, and they got to participate in it. Well, now, Devin did all of this work, and if I scroll down and look at all of the things that are going on, and I'm like going, whoa, wait a minute, what's happening here? How I'm going to catch up with what happened during this incredible event? Because basically what they did here was what we call the distributed notes or meeting. And again, down here you can see the PodCamps, and you can find all waves tagged with this, or Phoenix, Arizona. Type of things like that. And so if I keep scrolling, you're going to see just some incredible amounts of notes and things and blips and wavelets and all those kind of things. So what you can do is you can always use the magic of playback. Now, playback is something that you simply, if it doesn't fit on your toolbar here, remember you can click on the ... for more actions and click playback. So once I click playback, I can come down here and go ahead and start the the wave, and we notice that it's going through all the different things that he did, and it's lining them up. Okay, so there was over 190, 200 obvious changes, and do some things like that. So what you can do is you can navigate between the frames. So he started the frame. Then he gave everyone global access, so everyone has the capability to do editing. I click again, he adds the tags. I click again, he edits what the title of the message was. I click again, and all of a sudden he adds all of us people here into the environment. You click again, and you added the message, and and again, all these things, and you can start scrolling up and down, and moving it and doing some things, and keep scrolling, keep playing back. He deleted a message, he changed the message, he added a whole bunch of people. He added this message, so what do we use this for? Public added Jeff Moriarty. So we're going through and clicking on each time, and you go to every single instance or blip that occurs or edit that occurs in this environment, and you can go step by step by step by step by step by step, and you can see each individual event that's coming. You can also, this is kind of fun, just run the scroll bar through, and if you're like, oh, I know that I didn't, I was at least, when was this? Okay, 180 of 210. Okay, I was right around there was when I was starting, where Devin was talking about, some control and stuff like that. So you can boom, 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 go through and, check out every single one of these things, or you can click one by one by one and one and one. Okay, so this is really good for you to find out what has happened during that conversation at any point in time. And I'm sure Devin will appreciate the fact he's now famous on a CBT Nugget video, as all of these guys are from the PodCamp Arizona in 2009. And no CBT Nugget would be complete without one last caveat. Obviously, at the time of recording this nugget, as we've said, Google Wave is a preview. It's a beta. And sometimes that means it is going to go down. And so I took the time to pre-record just a little clip of this, of what happens when a preview needs to be maintained. And, it kind of fits the whole Google theme, as we know that they are developing this down in Australia. So where else do you think they'll go when their servers need maintenance or anything else? They're going to go to the beach. And maybe that might be a good idea for all of us here at the end of this collaboration video. Head down to the beach, relax, and enjoy some life. A lot of stuff to throw at you, and some of it might be like overwhelming. But just understand, Google Wave is still in, at least at the recording of this CBT Nugget, still getting started, still getting its feet wet. A lot of great features that are there, and by the time you view this, there might be even more great features. The best thing to do, like we said, is get installed and get utilizing it. I think you'll find it a great tool. Number one, from collaboration standpoint, create documents on the fly. They've got basic editing capabilities. You can take that and then import it. Eventually, they're hoping to export it into Google Docs, and that way you can interact greatly with that as part of your Google Apps environment. We showed you some of the terms that they use, like wave, wavelet, blip, things like that. And then we gave you a nice little demo, including our good friend James Conrad from CBT Nuggets, showing us some nice pictures, and showed you how the interface worked, how you can interact live in real time with people out there on Google Wave. I hope you enjoyed the training today, and I'd like to thank you for joining us.